Hi, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, reporting live from the hotter than Hades, East Texas. I'm in my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law, and we have Suzanne Kamata all the way from Japan, who's our special guest author tonight. She's our international pick of the month, and we are thrilled. I'm also, I give really gold stars to people who show up on a regular basis to our book club. And I'm going to have to say that Suzanne Kamata is all the way in Japan, but she rarely misses a meeting. And I know she's doing classes in different time zones. I really pay attention to that. And I queen for the day. Yay! So we've got a friend of ours here, Madge Stein Woods. And Madge, where do you live?
Bradley.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. So we're all over. We're in San Antonio. We're in Shreveport, Louisiana. We're in
Preston, North Carolina.
yes, and Sarah's up in Washington State, and let's see, and then we've got Kathy's in New Hampshire, right? New Jersey.
No, you can say New Jersey. It's Maryland, but it's close enough.
Maryland. You and Eileen, I always get it wrong, and I don't know why. Maybe after a couple of years or so, I'll finally get it right.
No big deal.
Just
We're
pipe in, everybody, pipe in. But we got a good crowd tonight, and we're thrilled that you're here for our international pick. For those who are listening later on the YouTube channel, I am the CEO and founder of the Pulpwood Queens International Book Club Reading Nation. And we have a book of the month, we have an international book of the month, and we have 2 bonus books a month. So we do them one a week every Tuesday night. So we hope that those that are listening will jump in and join the conversation, because there is nothing better in the world than hearing the story from the author's perspective. You get the full, clear, perfect picture of what her book is all about. And we're going to be talking about her book, The Baseball Widow, but we're also going to be talking about Suzanne. And Suzanne, the more I find out about her on her, she's posting on her blog this week, and the more we've talked, the more I've found so many weird connections. Like, there's an author that I had years ago come to Girlfriend Weekend that I'm really good friends with, named Will Clark. He'll be a keynote speaker at Girlfriend Weekend. He's got a great new book coming out called Marigold. And evidently you guys went to college together. Is that correct?
Yeah, we were both in the, it's called the optional residency program at the University of British Columbia. So it's an MFA program, but it was online. So he was, we didn't use Zoom. It was basically just in forums, but he was in Texas, I guess.
He's in
and I was
Dallas.
in Japan, and most of the other classmates were in Canada. But we were in 2 classes together, and he was just such an amazing writer and just so entertaining.
He is entertaining, and you all are in for a treat, because I've got on my new Girlfriend Weekend Amelia Island t-shirt. I got it in today, and I got in my tiara that I'm going to be bringing. I always get a new one every year, and this one lights up, but I'm going to save that for Girlfriend Weekend. But it is all crystalled and diamond, and I've got my beads on. I'm excited about it. But what are the chances? I mean, I always look at the people that are put in our path. And then, you know, I found out through this year that you're also a poet. You've written all these books. You know, you're married to a coach. You've got all these interesting, and you have twins, right? Correctly?
Yes, yes.
And you amaze me of all the things you're doing. So we want to hear first a little bit of background about you, where you come from, and how you got. Now, I know from reading your blog how you got into writing. You wanted to write ever since you were a kid. But for those that do not know, this is the opportunity we like to share our story. So tell us all about it, Suzanne.
Okay, I'll try to tell some things that I haven't told elsewhere too.
Okay.
But, okay, so I was born and raised in Grand Haven, Michigan. And it's on the west side of Michigan, so it's very different from where like Deborah Goodrich grew up. So very white, very conservative. It was kind of a tourist town, very small. And I never met anyone who wrote professionally when I was growing up. But, I aspired to be a writer. And maybe like part of it was because my mother was a reader, and she always took us to the library, and she always read magazines. Like she was a big magazine lover. So we always had like Ladies Home Journal and McCall's and Good
Hello.
Housekeeping and Family Circle, all of those
I
magazines.
see that. Hold on a second. Let me get off my Zoom call here.
Okay. And then back in the day, they all published short stories, right? So I would always read those short stories, and then I would write my own short stories and try to send them to Good Housekeeping. And I mean, I was a kid, so I didn't know what I was doing. So, and yeah, and then I used to, I made a magazine for my mother like every month.
Aww.
And I would write the short stories. I would watch like Merv Griffin or these talk shows and kind of transcribe the celebrity interviews. So there would be like the celebrity feature, and then I would like draw some fashion, the fashion pages and recipes and all that. And I did that like for like a year. And I think my mom still has them in my
Oh,
closet.
I hope so. I
She
hope.
does, like she has those, but I found out that the literary journals that I published in as an adult are up in the attic. So it's kind of like insulted. But at least they kept them, I guess, right? So yeah, so I started thinking that, as a writer, you start out by writing short stories, and I wrote short stories, but I was always like working on, like in high school, I was always working on a novel, because my dad was always like, you have to get a job, you have to help pay for college. And I thought, I'll just write a romance novel and I'll pay for my college that way. But luckily I got a national merit scholarship, because my father's company gave scholarships to everyone who was a national merit finalist. So I didn't have to publish the novel to get to pay for my tuition.
What was the name of that romance? I'm dying to know.
Oh, it had it was like Promise Me Paradise or something like that. I don't know. It was
I love it. Someday you'll have to
It's
share
like a
that
bit
with us.
ahead of its time, because it had a secret baby, and it had like, this like brother and stepsister who, sort of like bordering on incest, but
Oh, you must have been reading Flowers in the Attic.
I did.
Yeah.
I read all those books.
I
Yeah.
loved them. I loved them too. I know, weird. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So then then I went to college, and I didn't have any time really to write short stories or think about that. And I thought, and by that time I realized that I wasn't going to, become a multimillionaire by writing books. So I was kind of thinking I would have to do something else. Like I was interested in book publishing or writing for a magazine or in New York City or PR, something like that. And I also wanted to travel. So my brother was a foreign exchange student in Germany in high school, and I couldn't copy. I was like very conscious of not wanting to do exactly what he did, but I also wanted to do that. So I waited until I was in college, and I went to France on foreign study. And then after graduating, France was so interesting, and I enjoyed the culture shock and, experiencing new things. And I wanted to have even more culture shock. So, I've always been interested in Africa, and I know Africa is many different countries, and they're not at all the same. But I decided I was going to go into the Peace Corps. So I applied to the Peace Corps. It was really intense. You had to have like 7 letters of recommendation, and that the interview was like 3 hours and really intense. And they ask you questions like, do you have a boyfriend? You know, because most people who drop out of the Peace Corps drop out because they miss their boyfriend or girlfriend. And I was going to be assigned to Cameroon. And my brother, this is again my brother, he was a marketing major, and he didn't really understand why anyone would work for two or 3 years for no money. And so he suggested I apply to the JET program as a like an alternate, or as a if the Peace Corps didn't come through, I could go in the JET program, which was a program to send young people to Japan for 1 year to teach English as assistants in public schools. And that had a salary. So like at the time, it was like $30,000. And this, at the time, like 30 years ago, that seemed like a lot of money. So I thought, okay, like first I'll go on the JET program, and then I'll go into the Peace Corps. So Japan was just so interesting. And 1 year didn't really seem like enough. So after 1 year, I decided I would stay longer. And my second year, it was like the first month of the second year, I met my husband. And it's easy to remember. I can't really tell you the date right now, but it's easy to remember because I met him on the night that Hurricane Hugo hit South Carolina.
Wow.
And yeah, so I fell in love. And then I still knew that I wanted to have a literary career, as I posted on the blog. So I thought I can't stay in Japan unless I can have the literary career, unless I can write and publish stories or somehow be involved in literature. And as I posted on the blog, like I was assigned to Tokushima Prefecture in Shikoku, which is not Tokyo, it's not Osaka, it's considered like the country or the boondocks by people who live in Japan. It's very conservative. It's like the South Carolina of Japan.
Oh man. That's
And and to get here, there's no bullet train. You can take a bus now, but at the time you could only get here by ferry, like a 3-hour ferry. And if the water was choppy, the ferry was canceled. Or you could take a plane. So it's a little bit off the beaten tracks. And for some reason, I discovered that there were other people publishing English language literary journals in Japan, like in Tokyo and big cities. And for some reason, me surrounded by Japanese speaking people who didn't read English, I thought there should be an English language literary journal in Shikoku. So I started one, and I posted, so I put an advertisement in the English language newspapers, and I said, I'm send me your short stories and poetry and whatnot. And so I started publishing this literary journal, and people actually sent me things, and that's how I started to meet other writers in Japan.
Oh, that's very smart.
Yeah, I don't know, it was kind of expensive, but but it worked, right? So, and then I had this idea that, wow, there are all these writers like writing about Japan, and some of them are really good, and people in the United States and other places should know about them. So I had this idea, I thought it was original, but of putting together an anthology of short stories by foreigners in Japan. And I later found out that 2 or 3 other people had the same idea, but they just hadn't really moved forward on it. But I just wrote one letter to a publisher in Berkeley, California, Stonebridge Press, with my idea. And the publisher, Peter Goodman, responded positively. He said, sure, go ahead. And then I spent the next 2 or 3 years putting together an anthology, and I have it here. And this was my first book, The Broken Bridge, Fiction from Expatriates in Literary Japan. So it was kind of just luck partly, and just being naive and just kind of plowing ahead. But that was another way that I connected with other writers in Japan, and then I had a little bit of a reputation. So that's kind of how I got started. And by this point, I'd only published a few short stories, so I didn't include my own work. And then I started publishing my short stories in literary journals, because by that time I had discovered there are other places than Good Housekeeping and The New Yorker where I could send my stories to. And I had the idea from reading interviews with other writers and from reading the magazine Poets and Writers that literary agents read magazines and found clients that way. So when I started working on my first novel, I published excerpts in a couple of places. Like one was Literary Mama, which it's still going, an online literary journal. That's really good. And another was, I think it was called New York Stories. It's not around anymore, but so I published an excerpt in New York Stories. And one of the people on the editorial board was a literary agent, and she contacted me like almost right away as soon as it was published. And she said, you know, I really liked your story, and do you have a novel or something? And I was like, as a matter of fact, I do. And so I sent her my novel, and she loved it. And she said, I think I can publish this. So that became my first novel, Losing Kay, which was about, again, a cautionary tale about an American woman who marries a Japanese man, and then they divorce, and they have a child, and she loses custody of the child to her Japanese husband, and then she plots to get him back. So that's a thing that happens in Japan, where they don't have laws for dual custody. So a lot of times, like, the custodial parent will just cut the custodial parent off, and it's kind of a sad, yeah, it's a very sad situation. So yeah, so this was published by Leapfrog Press in Wellfleet. At the time it was Wellfleet, Massachusetts, and it was run by Ira Wood, who's also a writer, and his wife Marge Piercy, who was kind of an iconic feminist writer in the 1970s, especially. She still writes, but so Ira really liked baseball, and around the time this book was published, the Boston Red Sox had just acquired Daisuke Matsuzaka for an extraordinary amount of money. And he was worried. So he's like, is that, you know, are things going to be okay with the Red Sox? You know, like, ask your husband, because he knew my husband was a baseball coach. So we would always be talking about baseball, not the book. Or we talk about the book, and then we would talk about baseball. And he said, why don't you and your husband write a book about Japanese baseball? So, like, he's a writer, and he had written a couple of books with Marge, you know, but my husband doesn't write, and he doesn't really read very much. So I was like, there's no way he would ever write a book with me. But he was willing to answer all of my questions, right? And I thought, you know, my whole world at that point was baseball, because my husband was working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and most of it with his baseball team. And later my son was playing baseball as well. So I thought I had all this material, and I should use it. So I wrote the first draft of The Baseball Widow. And then by that time, Ira and Marge had sold their publishing company, to someone who's more interested in like experimental fiction. And I sent the Baseball Widow to my agent, and her only comment really was, "Are you going to revise it?" So I knew it wasn't ready, but she wasn't the kind of agent that would give you editorial advice, right? So, and I sent it to some friends, but they didn't really know what to do. Well, they gave me a little bit of advice, but I didn't know how to revise it. So I just set it aside for the next 10 years or so.
You know,
And
it's kind
every
of
now and then I
amazing.
would take it out and revise it, but
It's kind of amazing to me. You know, our book club, we read books. We always have since the inception. We always read books from around the world. But it's amazing to me that just now people are starting to say, hey, maybe we should read books from other countries, you know, or maybe we should read books by, you know, Americans in other countries. And I think like it's a novel idea. And you know, I feel like I was ahead of my time. So I'm very excited that you're our International Book of the Month, and I'm glad you found a home with us because you've been such a valuable book club member. So now that you have this book out, and what is the experience like on book tour in Japan?
well, whatever book tour I do in Japan is something that I've set up myself because my book is in English and the people around me don't read English. So I think there are book tours for Japanese authors.
Have you
But,
not sold the foreign rights to have it in Japanese?
No. I
That's
haven't.
a given. That's a given. We need to, does your agent, does she deal with,
I don't have an agent anymore, actually. It's like another long story.
well, you need to sell that, you need, you know, they have a international, it's in Barcelona. And my agent used to always go and she'd get a lot of authors there. But yeah, your book should be, I mean, that just seems a given. You live in Japan, it should be translated. You know, that's why I put so many foreign countries in my book so they'd all print it in foreign countries. It hasn't happened yet to me.
Yeah,
either.
that's what I've tried that too.
It hasn't
But,
happened yet to me.
I think actually in Japan, I think a lot of publishers, that I think for one thing, my books are not 100% positive about Japan, and Japanese publishers, they like to put out like an image of like cool Japan or, you know, beautiful Japan.
I just watched the new Johnny Depp movie. I understand how propaganda and works. Have you seen that? It's Manamato.
Oh yeah. I'd love to see it.
Oh, it's on Hulu, and I highly recommend it. Johnny Depp is
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah, I really want to see that.
I want to know your opinion. I want you to tell me what you think. It's pretty controversial. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it was the lead poisoning in
Mercury.
the fish, a mercury poisoning. Yeah, that was a really big issue. So yeah, another thing I noticed, one of my books has like a mean grandma, and someone posted recently like a really long kind of ranty review in Japanese on the Amazon site in Japanese about the mean grandma. Like I think it was like a 1-star review. So I think they really hated that I portrayed the Japanese grandma as a mean person.
Well, you know what? You know,
So like most many people in Japan, just they want, you know, foreigners here to portray Japan as a beautiful, nice, peaceful country. And when people write things about, for example, about the Empress, I think there was a story about Princess Masako a while ago. There was a book about her, and the publisher or someone took out like a 1-page ad in the New York Times, like saying, "This is not true."
it's fiction, people. It's fiction. Yeah, well, yeah, the world's, well, you know, change is slow. So keep going, keep going.
But in Japan, I do have some opportunities to share my books. So there's an annual writers conference that's kind of cobbled together by foreigners in Japan. and the Japan Writers Conference that has been going on for about 10 years. And then there's like the Foreign Correspondence Club, and sometimes they have events, and there are a lot of like English language newspapers and magazines, and
You
I
have
think it's
Rotary
coverage from them.
Internationals in Japan, and they
Oh.
all love authors. They love authors because
They don't speak English though. We invited, well, there are Rotary groups everywhere,
yeah.
but we've invited a group from Japan, and they don't speak English that well.
You don't.
Yeah, especially Japanese, the way, well, you know that too. The words are, the pronunciation, there are all, even in Korean, there are sounds that I cannot make. English sounds I cannot make.
But let me tell you something.
But Japanese have more problem than Koreans.
I had 6 teachers come from Taiwan, and they said, Kathy, show them around Jefferson, And I said, I'd love to show them around Jefferson. So I show up with my blonde hair and my hot pink t-shirt, and it was instant love because they all wanted to be blonde and they all wanted hot pink. So I just took them back to my shop and let them try on wigs. By the time they left, I crowned them Pulpwood queens, and we didn't have any communication problem, and neither one of us spoke each other's language. But it was so, I think, there's a lot to be said just by showing, hair, wig, you can communicate. But Rotary International I've been a part of it until, the chapter closed here. It's been a big thing. And I know that I've been invited to speak at every Rotary Club in Northeast Texas. So I thought maybe that might be a good place, but they don't, most countries in business, they don't learn English.
They tried. That's why I came here.
You're going to have a big advantage when you come
that was
back.
their idea. Okay, like the students can't speak English, so we're going to bring over all these like young people from America and England, and then the kids will have to talk to them, or that was the idea. So I think it has worked to a degree, because I now teach at a university, and most of the students can understand at least some of what I say. So, but when I first came here, when I first started teaching at university, I didn't have the feeling that they could. But now that they've had these like foreigners in their classrooms, and that maybe the teachers are better at speaking English, and they're changing the way of teaching, so it's a bit better. Yeah.
Let me ask you something, Suzanne. I made quite a few contacts with the Korean authors. There is a Facebook site that's called the Fourth Kingdom, and you have to be a Korean American. But anyway, those young people, they're all young. And what I have found out is that they go back to Korea, and they are second generation. They don't speak English, they don't write English, but they go back to Korea and they teach a course in English at a university in Korea. Aren't there universities like that? There are quite a few.
Oh, your sound is off.
You're cutting out.
I missed the last part. Sorry.
No, the sound is on.
It
was
was just
off for a
going in
second.
and out.
Oh, it was off.
So you're asking if there are like Japanese people who go, Japanese Americans who come here?
Yeah, Japanese are going to universities and the instruction is in English, because English, being able to speak English is huge in Japan.
So Japanese students don't want to go to America. That's another problem. Like Japanese students don't want to study abroad, so they don't go abroad.
I had a Japanese exchange
very
student, and she
Japan-centric.
loved it here. Loved
You
it.
had
She
one,
didn't go
yeah, that
home.
one did, but but generally speaking, that's another problem in
Yeah.
with education.
Yeah.
So Japan is so safe, and they look at America, and there's all this gun violence, and it's kind of crazy. But Japan is safe, and they're comfortable, and like Japanese students just tend to be very conservative and restrained, and they want to live in their hometowns after graduation, and the ones that I know. Okay. So Yeah,
Wow.
But
Rebecca.
to follow up with what Wandra was saying, there are universities in Japan, not in the United States, but in Japan, where the instruction is in English,
That's right.
right?
There are
And
a
so,
lot.
like, there's International Christian University in Tokyo. There's the International University. I don't know. There's Temple University. There's places in
I am on
Japan where
Zoom.
students can go for English language
I'm on
education.
Zoom.
I think that's what Wandra was referring
Okay,
to.
yeah, my son went to an English medium university in Akita International University, where all of the instruction was in English. And it's very
Right.
small, like a few hundred students. So there are students like that, you know, who might, some of them study education and they go back and teach in schools.
So your children, they're growing up,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're bilingual.
My son is. My son went to I raised him in English, and he never speaks to me in Japanese. So either he thinks my Japanese is bad or it just feels weird. I think it feels weird for him.
How do you and your husband, which you speak Japanese with your husband?
I speak mostly English with him because he was quite good at English when he was in high school. And then he taught at a English cram school when he was in college. But interestingly, he chose German as his foreign language in college. So his English is quite good, but if I really want him to understand something, I try to use Japanese. So we kind of, yeah, we use different languages, you know, garbled together. And then my yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
Oh, well, just, I didn't want to interrupt your thoughts here, but from what you were saying about the rosy image that people want about the writing, and, you know, your book was so frank about the difficulties of the rigid rules and the women that were making the perfect little name tags and the one couldn't do it.
Oh, I'd be a disaster in Japan. I'd be a disaster. Oh man.
So did you get any, feedback, negative feedback about that, showing that honesty?
From American readers or from?
Well, from any readers.
Well, not yet, but I hesitated, honestly, I hesitated to publish this book because I thought it was too dark.
No.
And that people who read about Japan tend to want to read like quirky stories, like like Murakami and cats and making spaghetti, or they want to read, I don't know, like just positive stories or beautiful Japan, or with geisha and I don't know. So I thought maybe like when Losing K was published, one reviewer said the author, or not the author, the main character should have known better. She should have known that she could lose custody of her son, and she should have known better before she married this guy.
Wow.
And she had no sympathy for my main character. So I thought it might be more of the same. Like people would be like, why does this woman stay in Japan? Why doesn't she just leave? So I tried to work on making it, making the reader understand why she was still there.
Right. Yeah. And you
It's a
did,
beautiful country.
it was really balanced, I thought, and very, I appreciate what I learned.
I thought you did. I thought that's the real strength of your book, is that we feel empathy for all the characters. We see the culture clash. We understand why the husband is so dedicated to baseball, because he's not, it's not just for himself. He's doing it for the students. He's doing it for them, and he's dedicating himself to them. And we also understand why Christine is so upset, because she's not getting any attention and she needs help. And so we completely understand, I think, each character's grievance. And that's hard to do, because you want to create a bad guy, but nobody's perfect and nobody's bad. And even in America, Christine can't communicate with her own family, you know, so it's not just a Japan thing, it's a human thing.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it so brilliant.
And that's why we read, so we can understand these things, because if they're never talked about or were never brought to our attention, we get misconceptions on cultures. You know, I can't tell you how many times I had a misconception about the South, man. I went to Monroeville, Alabama, and I was expecting the 1930s South. And of course, you know, we just, you know, I was still singing To Kill a Mockingbird the way it was in the 50s in the movie, but it's, you know, I think the biggest shock I've ever had in my life was doing a Bible study with Adam Hamilton, and he went to the Holy Land, and they show him on these buses going down the freeway to Jerusalem. I'm going, what? There's freeways to Jerusalem? I'm going, oh my God, because
No donkeys?
nobody's riding on a donkey with, you know. But it is true. We see movies, and a lot of them are set in the past. So you go these places, even in England, I'm going around to all these estates all over England, and we're on the freeways. And I'm thinking, I don't know why, but I just didn't think freeways were anywhere but in America. That's growing up again. I mean, that was my own ignorance, you know. So that's why it's important that we all read books like yours and all of your books that are here, because we learn those, you know. How many times people say to me, oh, you're from Kansas, how's Toto? You know, I live in the Flint Hills of Kansas, and, you know, the Wizard of Oz was set in, you know, the flat western plains of you know, but if you're from Kansas, you're a Dorothy, you know. But, and I still, one of my favorite movies, but I didn't live where it was that flat. It was meandering hills, and you know, people just think of Kansas as, so, yep.
You need to go to India, Kathy.
I do, I'm going.
You'll see how even just airport, when you land on the airport, how much better it is than it is in America.
I cannot wait to go. I cannot wait. But even when I went to Alaska, you know, I got there and it's late at night, but it's broad daylight. And the first thing, as we come out of the airport with the queen of my head queen of my book club picked me up, we pull out and we have to stop because there is a moose. It's just like northern exposure, man. There's a moose right in front of us. And she goes, I go, oh, let me get out. She goes, don't get out. They're mean. They're mean. I go, moose are mean? She goes, they're bad, man. They attack people. So I go, well, can I crack my window to take a picture? You know, that's why we need to go. We need to learn. We need to travel. We need to have these conversations. So your book is, it came out when did it, I'm trying to think when it came out.
I sent it to you when it was still in galleys. So I think I sent it to you around this time last year. So it came out in October.
Yeah.
You know, in the middle of the pandemic, of course. So.
Well, thank
October
you.
2021, right? October 2021.
2021, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, people are always apologizing. They say, oh, my book came out in 2019. I go, I don't care when it came out. It's new to me. And I don't think the general public that read books go, is this a new book? I mean, what is that about? I don't understand publishers' intents. You know, they only promoting books, you know, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. I go, a good book is a good book no matter when it's written, you know, but they're on time schedules. So they have to, you know, they're on to the next bunch. But
look at Kate Bush's song that's just she's like top 5 songs now in America, and it was released back in the mid 80s. So she's,
what was the song? I don't know. I'm lost.
Oh, it's called Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. And it is an amazing, it always gives me chills when I hear it. And it is so relevant, you know, even now. And yeah, this is a song that came out in the 80s and it is in the top 5 hits right now in
You guys
America.
know about this? Did you know about this?
Yeah. Even I knew.
I don't have television. I don't listen to the news.
Well, I was gonna ask, baseball is so different in Japan
Yes.
than it is in America. I mean, they're very polite.
Yes. Yeah. So in the book there's a scene where or mention of whenever Christine walks past the baseball team, they would like doff their caps and go, us. So I really liked that when I was the coach's wife. Like whenever I walked past the team, they would sort of like all bow. Like
I like that too. And I think
yeah, they're so polite.
we could definitely learn from the Japanese on that, because I think poor sportsmanship is just terrible. What does that say to kids? No, I think Japanese have got it right. It's a game. It's a sportsman's game. We don't have to be mean or anything.
It
like
is a game, but everything rides on it, and this is what's so interesting in the novel is that it's high school. This isn't professional baseball. This is high school baseball. And in a way, high school baseball is more important in Japan than professional baseball. So what's so interesting to me is the tension between Daisuke and the coach. And Daisuke brings in this kind of American individualism, which creates the tension then between coach and Daisuke. There's so many tragedies that happen because of lack of communication. But
Yeah.
they're human tragedies, and it's just so relatable, I think. Even though it's a different culture, I think we can all understand that these are tensions we all interact with every day because we don't always understand the people we're talking to, even if they're our own culture. And that's what I like about Suzanne's book, is that even within the own culture, within the own Japanese culture, people are miscommunicating.
Especially in our own culture.
And in our own culture too.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I can have a conversation with somebody in my family and I go, did we live in the same house? I do.
We're the same species.
I think I'm an alien.
I
I think I'm an alien. I do. Okay.
There's something called inshin denshin, right? It's like mind reading. so I don't hear this so much anymore, but when I first came to Japan, I'd hear things like, we Japanese don't need to speak because we understand each other's feelings. But I was like, that is not, that is like total BS, right? So a lot of times, like I realize, from reading, I have my students write essays or whatever, and I realize that even though they seem like quiet and they don't seem to have any opinions, they actually are just like bubbling with ideas and opinions. They just don't want to say them in front of other people.
Well, this is a story about immigrant. It's an immigrant story also. So we hear a lot about immigrants coming to America. And, in this story, and you too, you are well educated, skilled, and all of that going over there, and it's very difficult. Just imagine what it's like for immigrants coming here. I mean, we have immigrants.
Oh, absolutely.
All over
Yeah.
the place. And there is a saying among immigrant population, I don't know, among Koreans, they say, first 2 years is the most difficult period. And after that, it feels like, that you're home now. Did you feel that? When did that happen to you?
I don't know. I still feel like an outsider, really. And my neighbor is still like a kind of like standoffish, and part of it's because of me, because I keep to myself. I'm kind of reserved, and
Which is so funny. I mean, when you get to know you, you're funny. Yeah, I think you have a great sense of humor.
Thank you, but I don't like go out, and I'm not the kind of person who like go outside and hang over the fence and gossip about the neighbors for half an hour. And my neighbors are all farmers, right? And I work at a university, so our time, the time schedules and things like that are all different. So So I feel like they, they greet me, my neighbors greet me, but I don't. They're still a little bit distant.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They didn't run over and bring you cookies when you moved in, huh?
No, we moved into my mother-in-law's house, so
Oh.
she was still here.
I have another question for Suzanne, if I can. And
Yeah.
and Suzanne, you write a lot about your children, and some of it is a memoir or creative nonfiction, and some of it is fiction. How do your children feel about being part of your professional publication?
So when they were little, I think mother writing was just becoming a thing, and like there were journals like Literary Mama and Brainchild and other magazines, and so I think the idea was like, yeah, we should write about motherhood because it's important and nobody writes about it, and we should write about the good and the bad. So when my kids were little, that was my way of thinking. It's more about my experience than theirs. and I did write a lot about them. I wrote a column with a couple of other authors for like 10 years for the All Nippon Airways in-flight magazine. And I would write about our family, and my husband was the one who was kind of against it, but I tried to explain to my kids, this is what I want to write about, that time we went to karaoke, is that okay? And when my son was older and he could read English, I would let him read the essays before they were published and get his approval. And my daughter is deaf and she doesn't read English, so that was a bit more complicated. But I would try to explain to her, this is what I'm going to write about, right? And when they became, teenagers, I just stopped writing about them basically, because I don't feel like I have that, permission, or I would ask them first. But they can tell their own stories now, so.
That's right. It's very good. So,
That's your country now, right?
Maybe, but I'm still an American citizen, and
Right.
that was very clear to me when the pandemic started. Only Japanese people were allowed back into the country, or if I had left during that time, I wouldn't have been allowed back in, even though I'm a permanent resident, right? So I realized that it's a bit precarious.
Yeah.
And that I'm not really protected by the Japanese government. So something happened, I don't know.
So do you have dual citizenship?
No, it's not allowed. So
Right,
if I
it's
became
not
a
allowed in
Japanese
Korea
citizen, I'd have to get rid of my
Right.
American
US.
passport.
Yeah, US.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's so much the same as Korea.
Yeah.
I had to give up my Korean citizenship to
you
become
did or did not?
I did to become a US citizen, but I heard, Facebook in so many ways are, it's a wonderful thing because I befriended with this Jesuit priest who decided to become a Korean 2 years ago. So he has wonderful posts. So I've been talking to him and I said, did you have to give up your citizenship? He said, no, you don't have to do that anymore.
Oh,
I said, well, I had to give up my citizenship to become a US citizen. He says, well, you can get it back. So he told me how to do it. And I'm thinking, what is the point at this time? I'm going to go to Korea next spring, probably with my whole family, about 9 of us. And that will be my last trip to Korea. It's just too far, too hard. I just have a sister there. So, I feel like, what is the point of getting it back? I mean, if it's close, I will get it just for socialized medicine, I'll tell you. But it's so hard. I mean, their medicine is wonderful. It's wonderful. My sister had cancer twice and it was totally free.
geez. Yeah, our healthcare here is lacking.
Yeah.
Don't even
I
get me
feel, I
started
don't know.
on that.
I still
So,
feel
anyway.
like emotionally attached to my American passport. So
Yeah.
Suzanne, you'll have to let us know when you're here. And then, you can.
Hopefully she'll be here for girlfriend weekend.
Are you coming?
uh, Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's in the middle of the semester. And if I go to the United States, I have to see my parents, right? So it's really complicated. And right now my university still has like travel restrictions, you know, because of the coronavirus. So we'll have to see. I know it's filling up really quickly, but yeah, I am going to be in the United States the end of next month, like for just for a couple of weeks. And I'm
Oh,
going to
you
go
are?
to the Conrad Center.
Yay! Oh, you'll have to check out the pants I donated when you go there.
Yeah, I will. I'll take a photo.
It's become a thing. It's so funny. It's so funny. Well, you're going to have a good time. Well, we'll get together one of these days. We hope.
Oh, I'm actually like flying through Dallas. So if my plane is canceled, as it might be,
I'll come and get you.
Wander's in Dallas, right?
Suzanne,
I'm 2 hours.
flying
2
through.
hours to
I'll
Dallas.
come if you have any kind of layover. I'll meet you. I'll just stay in the airport. Seriously, I'd love to see you.
Oh, well, I'll be in South Carolina from like August.
But you said Dallas, though.
No,
see-
Dallas.
Oh,
Dallas,
Dallas.
Fort Worth. I sometimes do fly through Dallas, but oh yeah, like next time I do,
Oh,
I'll
well, Dallas.
look it up.
That's near Kathy.
She's by me. I'm just 2 hours away. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that like the air travel is really precarious in the States right now. So I might get
well,
stuck
they've
there. for a
canceled
couple of days.
so many flights. So if you don't get out, you might sit in there. If you heard from my Pulpwood Queen in Mississippi, she was going to Montana and their flight got canceled. So she ran across and she had flights to, I think she was in Kentucky. It took like, but she still got in on time. So she didn't miss a day of vacation, but they got in like at 1 a.m. or something. But anyway, she had to go to 3 different states to get to Montana through the other airlines because the other one was canceled.
Wow.
I guess the 4th of July was just a nightmare. You know, but I don't go anywhere if I can drive. And I will be driving to Amelia Island and with a caravan going.
Oh my
Really?
God.
I would love to go. So if I can find a way to go, I will. But right now it's not looking too good.
Well, we'll just keep our fingers crossed and you just never know. But and we always we'll have another one, you know, there's always next year. But January, the reason why we have it in January is because that's when I open my shop. You know, Beauty in the Book opened around on the 18th of January, and that's always around Martin Luther King weekend. It's a holiday weekend, and I'm not competing with any other book festivals in the country because it used to be the only one. There's other things going on now in January, but it's easy to get people to come because they're not obligated. September, October, in the United States, it's crazy there's so many festivals going on. So
February is good for me.
yeah, February, except the weather gets bad here, right, folks? That's when the ice storm hit me and knocked me out of commission for a while. So are you working on a new book, Suzanne?
Yeah. I'm actually working on a couple of things. One is my pandemic novel that I wrote during the last year or so. It's a beach book. So I was thinking about, I like to read beach books, you know, for the escapism or whatever. And I love the beach. So I like imagining myself at the beach. But a lot of so-called beach books are just about white people at the beach, right? And my experience is with my half Japanese kids and my Japanese husband and my sister-in-law who is Indian American and her kids, you know, so like half Indian, half German American or whatever, you know, so all these kind of brown and cinnamon colored people. So at the beach with our different cultures. So the working title is Cinnamon Beach. And I know there's a Cinnamon Beach in Florida, but it's not that beach. It's in South Carolina. So it's a story of a family like converging at the beach to scatter the ashes of one of the members who passed away during the pandemic.
Do people do that here? Do they take their Ashes to the Beach?
Yes, we did.
Did you?
Oh, good.
I've only discovered that since I've been watching all these Indian films. I mean, back home, everybody gets buried, and I do not want that. I like the idea. Throw my ashes to the waters. I think that's just hopefully not the one where people are bathing in, you know.
Can I show you what we made with my mother's ashes?
Okay, yes, please.
Yes.
So we scattered in, you know, to the beach and beautiful places that she loved, but we saved enough to have these hand blown globes that have a bit of her ashes. It looks like a constellation. I don't know if you can.
It's really beautiful.
So anyway, I look at it and she's right here with me.
That's cool.
Ah.
Very cool. My children have their both grandfathers in little sterling silver containers, necklaces. And I go, you really want that? And they go, yes. They have my dad and they're my ex-husband's dad. And they wear them all the time. They said, it just makes me feel good to have, you know, them with us. I go, well, okay. I just want to, have you seen where they plant you and they put a tree? I think that your ashes,
That's what I want. That's what I want.
that's so cool. But then again, they've come out with a new thing that you can have your ashes put into fireworks. And I think that'd be kind of cool.
You
That's
scared the
you,
dog.
Kathy.
That seems like something I'd do, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think I better stick with the tree thing. I think,
I don't know. I think fireworks for you.
well, maybe I'll split. I'm kind of a dual personality anyway.
Sure, yeah.
We'll do the tree and we'll do the firecracker and the kids can hang me around their neck, whatever. I go, gosh, it could be kind of heavy after a while, couldn't it, with all those necklace? Oh, well, anyway, that's my kids. But, well, I'm excited about Cinnamon Beach. And when's that going to be out?
I haven't finished it yet, so I'm hoping to finish it like this summer, and then I'll shop it around. I'll let you know.
Well, I hope everybody does. It's amazing to me how many people will come out. They'll come to Girlfriend Weekend. We've made them a book club selection, and then I go, they've got a new book. Why didn't they tell me? You know, and they go, well, I don't know. I just felt like blah, blah, blah. I go, you know, give me your books. You know, once you're a Pulpwood Queen, I'm going to be promoting you. I mean, I may not pick every author every year because I can't, but I'll certainly support authors that are in our tribe because, you know, it used to be if you were published, the publisher was with you for your duration as an author, you know, back
Right.
at Charles Dickens or Little Women time, you know, they stayed with them, or Beatrix Potter, whatever. But nowadays it's like, nope, we're not going to stay with you because the next author may be better. I mean, publishers. And I just think, invest in if you like their book the first time, invest in that author and in, you know, seeing them grow. Because I just watched, has anybody seen Elvis, the movie, the new one?
I want to.
I heard it's good.
Oh my God. Well, the guy who is the director of it, you know, this Boz Luhrmann, he's from Australia. So I've been going back and watching all of his other films. And my goodness, has he come a long way from Strictly Ballroom? I'm going to tell you, he's come a long way. But I've seen most of his films, Australia, Moulin Rouge, The Great Gatsby. But I went back to see some of his first films. My goodness, you know, I enjoyed them, but this film that he just came out with clicks all the boxes. The guy, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And one of the best films. That and RRR are the two best films I've seen this year. And I can't go on about them enough, but maybe one day everybody here, their book will be made into a film and we can all share it. Speaking of films, back several years ago, 5-6 years ago, we had Dick Wall come to Girlfriend Weekend, whose wife, Carol Wall, wrote Mr. Owita's Guide to Gardening. The documentary just came out. It's called The Bookkeepers. It's winning all these awards at the film festivals, including the Austin Film Festival. and I just saw it and we're in it, you all. I'm dressed as a deer. I swear to God. I swear to God. And I couldn't believe it. I go, oh my gosh, there's Ray White. She's in my Gilmore chapter. There's Stephanie Chance, who's, one of my best friends. There's all these people in the film, but it showed them coming to Girlfriend Weekend, and it showed him going around the country. And the whole beginning of the film, nobody's buying his book. He's sitting at a table and, he's trying to sell his wife's book. And then it's kind of a bummer. He goes, well, my wife actually wrote the book, but she died. And you could just see the people go, ooh, out of here, but it's a wonderful, wonderful book. But by the time he came to Girlfriend Weekend, it shows him outside Mass Hall where we had the event downtown Nacogdoches. And he's calling the publisher saying, listen, I need more cases. We've sold out everything. I'm going, yay, Pulpwood Queens, we rock. And so it really is good. And I'm really trying to talk to his son is a documentary filmmaker, does a lot of work in Canada. I'm really trying to see if they'll do a screener at our Girlfriend Weekend, because you guys, it is a beautiful story. And we'll talk about that later. But back to you, Suzanne. So you're good. Are you still doing the literary journals too and all that?
No, like when my kids were born, they were born like 14 weeks premature, and I had to stop working, so I didn't have an income, and I couldn't really spend my husband's money publishing a literary journal. So, and then I was asked to be like a fiction editor of Kyoto Journal, and so I'm doing that now, which is I just had to choose one story every 4 months or something. Yeah, and I want to, spend time on my own writing too. So,
well, you've got a lot of books. You've got your poetry, which I love, and
thank you.
I just want to see a lot more from you. And you're young. You've got your whole world ahead. I didn't even write my first book until I was in my 40s, and the second one, if it ever gets published, sometime before I'm 70. Because I'm going to be 66 this summer, I'm hoping. But I haven't been in a real rush because I've seen how much all of you have struggled during the time of COVID, getting your books out there. But I will tell you that I'm talking to book festivals, and I'm going to be out there promoting your books. And looks like I'm going to be at some pretty nice ones, talking up the Pulpwood Queens. So stay tuned for those announcements. And I just can't thank you all enough for coming in on your busy time schedules. And I know everybody's got a lot going on, but I really do appreciate you showing up, and I do keep roll. I know you don't think I do, but I do. And I recognize that because it's every day I get a call and they go, now where I posted it on the blog, I'm not supposed to post there? And I go, that is for the author of the week. Oh, well, where do I go to do Pulpwood Queen stuff? To our group page. And I explain it at least 10 times a day to people. And I don't mind, because I know it's easier to ask me than look it up. But I just think 23 years, maybe one day everybody will know we have book club on Tuesday night. I'm thinking 23 years. And I seriously, the first year I was going, what night is book club? I go, Tuesday night, 10 years, 15 years, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. And so it's, you just have to laugh, you just have to laugh. So if you do have any questions though, Mandy is no longer executive director of the Pulpwood Queens. She's so busy trying to get her own book out and everything that everybody, please come to me, because she is fielding calls and she just forwards them to me anyway. So please just email me if you have any questions, thepulpwoodqueen@gmail.com. I'm not going anywhere. In fact, I'm going to be home for quite a while because I'm having surgery the 25th. And I think it's going to be relatively a quick recovery, but I don't know, I'm getting up there, but I feel very positive about it. And I've been in the hospital before. It's pretty routine, and they even got a little robot that's going to do this thing. So it's going to be fun. So anybody, any questions before we go?
No, Kathy.
Yeah.
I I haven't renewed my membership. I think it's due. So do I send it to you, and how much is it?
It's $50. And if you're on auto renew, it automatically renews, but I'll look it up for you. I'll let you know. It automatically renews, and you do have to have your membership up to date when you come to Girlfriend Weekend. Readers, membership is free, but that does not mean that you can just go, I'm a member. You need to go to the Pulpwood Queen newsletter and register, because here's what happened. When I sent out the confirmation letters to everybody who paid for Girlfriend Weekend for 2020, because they rolled over to our next live one, I can't tell you how many people's got shot back to me because they'd changed their emails and hadn't told me. So if you don't register, I don't have any way of knowing how to get a hold of you, because you change your emails or you change your phones or whatever. And if you're not on Facebook, which you'd be surprised how many of my Pulpwood Queens never go on social media. And they go, well, how am I supposed to know what's going on? And I go, well, you've got to go on social media, because if you want, it's just like if you want to know the news, you got to watch the news. You've got to, that's kind of your responsibility to, I get the world news, but I get it online. But I just don't have time for TV anymore, you guys. I'm too busy fielding all these questions. So, and then I'm also getting ready for, we've got the keynote speakers down, and we've started the photo album that I've been sharing. James Wade is going to be a keynote speaker this year. He's our last one that confirmed. And our first moderator that we've invited to confirm is River Jordan. She's also a contributor to our Reading Nation magazine. So stay tuned. And if you are not called, by all means, please don't think you aren't worthy. It's just that we get 12 spots for Book of the Month. 12 spots for International Book of the Month. That's 24 people. And we literally now have thousands and thousands of members. We got over 1,200 books last year. And I'm reading the books. So, you need to send them to me if there's a book coming out. So, and the address is up on the website on the authors join here. But I'll check for you, Wandra. I'll probably get back with you in the morning because I've got to download this. And I don't know what's going on with Zoom, but it used to be it download like that and you can put it up. It's slowed. Half the time I can't even get it up till the morning because it hasn't downloaded. And I don't know why. It could be because they let half their staff go. I don't know why they did that either. But I guess when the world started opening up, people weren't using Zoom as much. But I think it's the best tool in the world because I get to talk to people in Japan and Paris and Boo Walker in Spain. I get to talk to people all over the country. And do you realize what a miracle kind of thing that is? I mean, I've never really had contact with any of the international authors I've ever picked because there was no way to communicate without it costing an arm and a leg. So it's pretty amazing. Now, can you order Amazon books in Japan?
Yeah, there's an Amazon, like they have a warehouse somewhere in Japan. So there's Amazon Japan website now. So
is it expensive?
Now it is because the yen is very weak. So I was looking at Will Clark's book and it's like 6,000 yen, which is before it was like $60, right? So I can't order it.
No, there's a book in India I want. I can't get it here. And it's only published in India, but it's like, oh my God, it's so high. It's a really neat book. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's a woman wrote a book about the phenomenon of Shah Rukh Khan, about how women adore him and think that all men should be romantic like him. And she actually did a whole research book on why, and I want to read it. And I can't get it. I can't get it.
Send me the title and maybe I could get it through Amazon.
Again, if you send it to me, it costs you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, I'll bring it to
oh,
to
okay. Hey, you know, oh, that's right. Because
mail is so expensive. International mail.
When Anju Gatani went to India, she said, "Tell me what you want." And I said, "I really don't want anything." She goes, "I'm gonna have you some clothes." And she did. She had me those blouses made that go under the sari. She had 4 of them made for me. I'm so
Wow.
excited about it. And she got them, she's from Jaipur. And so she got them made there, and they're so inexpensive. So when I go to India, I'm not taking a thing. I'm going to be taking empty suitcases because I'm going to be, my whole house has gone Bollywood. I have Bollywood curtains. I just love, I have all the ornaments from Wandra on my tree over here. I won't even take it down, but I am so ready to go on a trip, you guys. And I am planning in 2024 and a Pulpwood Queen trip. I will be announcing it as soon as I'm absolutely positive it's safe to go. And it's going to be exclusively for the Pulpwood Queens. And I hope you'll go with me because, oh, you guys, it's going to be to Italy. It's going to be to Italy, and we're going to have a blast. And, you know, Stephanie's going to be putting it together. So, but 2023, you know, we're having girlfriend weekend, and, you know, get your shots. If you feel uncomfortable, wear a mask. I probably will. But in 2024, I'm hoping that the world will open up where we can.
Hey, Kathy,
I go to Italy.
Oh, let's go.
is it Desperately Seeking Shah Rukh Khan?
Huh? Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Desperately Seeking Shah Rukh Khan. And
Yeah,
I
look it up.
tried to order it. I can't get it.
Search for Intimacy.
Search for
It's on
intimacy.
Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, but how much is it?
$20.
Not for me, is it?
I'm looking at it. It says hardcover, $20.68. It is 64% off because it's Prime Day.
Okay, never mind. I'm going right now to get that book.
I'm ordering it. So
When it came out, it was, oh my God, I can't remember how much it was. But the girl who wrote this, I saw her interviewed on YouTube or India Times or something. And it's a fascinating story about even the young girls, my daughter's age, they all want to marry somebody like Shah Rukh Khan. And I go, what is it about this guy? So she did like a paper book on him, and I want to read it. It's kind of academic, but I don't care. I want to read it, but I will check it out. And by the way, Tracy Carnes is my author friend from Shreveport, and she's got a book that I've got to read. I've got the manuscript in the queue, but she is the new co-host of my Pulpwood Queen Shah Rukh Khan Friends and Film Club. And Tracy, tell them your background. You know, you're not only an author, but you're
I'm a screenwriter, and I just am a big, huge film fanatic. And I love a good story. You know, whether it's in a book or a film or anything like that, I just love a good story. And it's been fascinating to me to watch, you know, these Bollywood movies. You know, they tell a really good story. You know, Americans aren't telling great stories anymore. The things that are getting produced, the books that are becoming number one, they're to me, they're terrible. And
Americans are telling the great stories, but they're not getting the publishers and the filmmakers.
yeah, and you know, I have a co-writer, and he is Catherine Patterson's son, and you know, it's just hard. It's hard to get a book. It's hard to get a film. Because bad people with a ton of money are sucking the air out of the room right now. It's
algorithms.
I'm really enjoying the Bollywood movies. They're beautiful and they're funny.
Tracy has also joined me here in East Texas. Gargazi and what's the law firm? Gargazi and
yeah.
They've bought the AMC theaters on the first Thursday of every month for senior citizens. You go free. And we went to the first one, and we had no idea how big a deal this thing was going to be. We got
400 people.
T-shirts. We had to register. They were giving away money and movie tickets, and we had 400 people come to watch. We filmed I think 3 theaters. Well, this last month it was Elvis, and Tracy and I went, and they filled 10 theaters.
Wow.
10. And I'm running into everybody I know waiting in line. They go, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in 20 years." You know, all these people that I used to work with at Barron's Books and other authors, they're pulling in from, they had buses there last week of senior citizens who came to show.
It's
And
huge.
it is huge. And this lady,
That's a good idea.
the lady who sat next to me, she had long silver hair. She was very nice and very elegant, and she had a cane, and she didn't say much. I'm like crying through the movie and talking to Tracy, and oh my God, you know, I love Elvis. So anyway, after it was over, she turned to me and she grabbed my arm. She goes, "That was the most wonderful movie I've ever seen." I go, "What, wasn't it?" She goes, "I'll be back." And she, you know, had a terrible time getting up to get out the door. But it's just, it's neat to see that many people my age and up together. It's everything you go to anymore. It's kids, you know, and to see your own peers it's like a concert. I don't even know how to describe it. How would you describe the experience, Tracy?
I think because we're aging, you know, we're kind of from a different age than our parents were. We're of the TV and the film age. So, you know, we're not going to be listening to Sinatra in the, you know, at the nursing home. We're going to be blasting Rolling Stones, you know, probably the Smiths. You know, I may throw in some Smithereens and, you know, whatnot, you know, the Replacements. But we're a different group, and you know, to be able to go see a movie for free with just a canned good, I think was just it's not about going to see a movie for free. It's because all these people have money that are going. It's
Oh, you should see the canned goods. It was out.
socialization of it. It's the socialization of going to a movie after we sat at home for 2 years.
Fantastic. We saw Downton Abbey, and then we just saw Elvis, and I bet you we're going to see Where the Crawdad Sings. Bye, Rebecca. You got to go. Bye-bye. Well, everybody, we're way over time, as always. I'm the big chatty Kathy, but thank you, Suzanne. What do you want to tell us?
Can I just say, I want to say, is Rebecca still here?
Just
I wanted
left.
to say thank you for choosing The Baseball Widow as an international pick. And to those of you who have read it and reviewed it, I appreciate that so much, Wondra and Sarah and Rebecca especially. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. So,
well, I just wanted to let you know that the online booksellers will not let me post reviews. I've tried and tried. They take me down. I think it's because they think people pay me to pick their books. No, if you join as a member, that's just so that you can get higher up in the stack. Because I do read my author's books first, and I think I should, because you're invested. But no, nobody pays me to get picked. All my books are 5 diamonds in the Pulpwood Queen tiara, or I'm not picking them. That's my highest mark. So you can always use that quote. You can use the stamp, and you know, I hope you do. And I think we're growing. You guys, I bet you on all of our sites, we've picked up 20 some new people this week. And Mandy, I think up to 115,000 on Reading Nation magazine. Now, if I can just get everybody to subscribe to the YouTube channel, I want people to watch this. So if you watch this, everybody, after I get it posted, share it and have book watch parties. And, you know, with your book clubs, this is the perfect thing to do. If you're reading the book, you punch the YouTube thing, you all watch it together, then you can discuss it, and you can always you know, go on the blog and talk to Suzanne in person. And so here we go. Another week. We're getting closer and closer to girlfriend weekend. Get your swag. I got my shirt on. It's awesome. They run big. I'm going to tell you this thing, I'm going to have to wash it, throw it in the dryer. It's a little big, or maybe I've lost some weight, but whatever. I got my tiara and it lights up. You'll see it. I'm going to be like the New Year's Eve ball. I'm not going to light it up till I get there. So y'all, thank you. Tracy, I'll see you. Kathy, Sarah, Wandra, Suzanne, God bless you. And thank you all for participating. It's just really, this is my social time and I appreciate y'all so much. So as always, it's all about the story. Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Suzanne. Good seeing
Love
you.
y'all.
Bye,
Thank you,
Kathy.
Suzanne. Bye.
Good luck with your
Good
surgery.
luck. Good luck on your surgery.
Oh, you'll know.